What if the world's most annoying philosopher was dropped into our modern lives? What would Socrates say about our obsession with likes, endless hustle, and shouting matches online? Let's find out how ancient Greek wisdom might just save us from our modern madness. Socrates famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." These words, spoken over 2,000 years ago, still echo with profound relevance today. Socrates believed that to live a truly meaningful life, we must constantly reflect on our actions, our beliefs, and our motivations. He challenged his fellow Athenians to question everything, to seek wisdom, and to never settle for easy answers. But in the digital age, our lives are often lived on autopilot. We wake up and reach for our phones before we even get out of bed. We scroll through endless feeds, chasing fleeting dopamine hits from likes, comments, and followers. Our attention is constantly pulled in 100 directions, and it's easy to lose ourselves in the noise. The algorithms know us better than we know ourselves, nudging us toward what's popular, what's trending, what's easy to consume. Instead of questioning our values or considering what truly matters to us, we often find ourselves swept up in the latest trends. We buy what's in style, watch what's viral, and mimic what we see online. Our sense of self can become blurred, shaped more by external influences than by our own inner compass. We rarely stop to ask, is this really what I want? Or am I just following the crowd? Socrates would urge us to pause, to step back from the constant stream of information and distraction, and to ask ourselves the hard questions. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What are my true values? Am I living in alignment with them, or am I simply reacting to what's around me? Taking time for self-reflection is more important now than ever before. In a world that rewards conformity and constant engagement, it takes courage to stop and think for yourself. Ask, do I truly believe this? Or am I just following the herd? The examined life may not always be the easiest path, but it is the one that leads to authenticity, purpose, and genuine fulfillment. The Socratic method was built on questions, not answers. Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, believed that true wisdom came not from having all the right answers, but from asking the right questions. He would wander the streets of Athens, engaging anyone willing to talk, challenging them to think deeper about their beliefs and assumptions. His approach was simple yet profound. Instead of lecturing, he listened, and then responded with another question, gently guiding people to examine their own ideas. But in today's world of hot takes and instant outrage, we don't ask, we attack. Social media platforms have become battlegrounds, where opinions are fired off in seconds, and disagreements quickly escalate into personal attacks. Instead of seeking to understand, we often rush to judge, to label, to dismiss. The art of thoughtful questioning is drowned out by the noise of outrage and the pressure to pick a side, fast. We rarely pause to consider why someone thinks the way they do, or what experiences shape their views. Imagine if Socrates were alive today. He would walk into a Twitter war, not to win, but to understand. He wouldn't be there to score points or go viral. Instead, he'd be the one asking, why do you believe that? Or what evidence supports your claim? In a world obsessed with being right, Socrates would remind us that wisdom begins with curiosity, not certainty. He'd challenge us to slow down, to listen, and to question our own assumptions as much as those of others. He'd ask, what do you mean by that? Not to trap or embarrass, but to clarify, to dig beneath the surface of slogans and sound bites. Socrates knew that real understanding comes from exploring the meaning behind our words, and from being willing to admit when we don't know something. How do you know it's true? He'd press for evidence, for reasons, for sources. In a time when misinformation spreads faster than ever, this question is more important than ever. Socrates would encourage us to be skeptical, to check our facts, and to be humble enough to change our minds when the evidence demands it. Can you explain it to someone who disagrees? Socrates believed that if you truly understand something, you should be able to explain it clearly, even to those who see the world differently. He saw disagreement not as a threat, but as an opportunity to learn, to refine your ideas, and to find common ground. That's how he found wisdom, by exposing ignorance, especially his own. In the age of outrage, maybe the most radical thing we can do is to ask questions, listen deeply, and admit when we don't have all the answers. The Socratic method isn't just an ancient technique, it's a timeless invitation to seek understanding, even when the world around us is shouting. Socrates chose death over abandoning his principles. In a world where most people would do anything to avoid punishment or discomfort, he stood firm, even when the cost was his own life. Imagine the courage it takes to look your accusers in the eye and say, "I will not betray what I believe is right, no matter what you threaten me with." Socrates didn't just talk about virtue, he lived it right up to his final breath. His choice wasn't just about himself, it was a message to everyone who would come after him. That truth and integrity are worth more than comfort, popularity, or even survival. He refused to stop questioning, even when Athens told him to shut up. The city that once celebrated his wisdom now demanded his silence, but Socrates wouldn't comply. He believed that asking hard questions, challenging authority, and seeking deeper understanding were not just rights, but duties. Even as the crowd grew hostile, he stood alone, undeterred by the threat of exile or death. Socrates knew that the health of a society depends on its willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, and he was willing to pay the ultimate price to keep that spirit alive. You know, if we compare that to today's influencer culture, it's kind of wild how truth is often sold for likes, clicks, and brand deals. In our world, it's easy to trade honesty for attention, to say what's popular instead of what's true. Social media rewards conformity and controversy, not curiosity or courage. The pressure to fit in, to go viral, to be liked, can make even the most principled people compromise. We see it every day, people shaping their opinions to match the crowd, or staying silent when it matters most, just to keep their followers happy. Socrates would probably be baffled by how quickly we trade our values for validation. He'd probably say something like, "Don't trade your soul for attention, stay curious, stay inconvenient, stay free." In a world that rewards easy answers and punishes dissent, remember Socrates, the one who chose death over hypocrisy. Let his example remind us that real freedom comes from questioning, from holding on to our principles, and from daring to speak the truth, even when it costs us everything. Imagine Socrates whispering in your ear before every decision. Do you know what you're doing? Or are you just reacting? Is this really your belief? Or did you borrow it? Socrates wouldn't give you answers. He'd give you the courage to question. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what we need today. We.